Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Are you scared of today? I don't know what else to say. I'm going to go through a lot of charts here real quick. I'm going to speed through in terms of what I'm thinking about the market. I'm going to do it in a way that is just extremely fast, okay? Looking at the S&P 500, I left these arrows down here. I drew these on Saturday. I really thought there was going to be a lot of weakness in terms of the S&P 500 market today, and certainly it seems to be playing out. I have a Gann chart over here. You can see how it was kind of hitting close to resistance, and because I was seeing that there's weakness in terms of volume, it looks like this whole uptrend here was very unhealthy, where it left gap number 1, 2 and 3 gaps here on the daily, all the way up here on declining volume. I thought that was going to come back and retrace at some point. The question is, how far does it retrace back down, right? So one thought would be it could retrace just to this level over here at the top of the arc here. Obviously, we've gone through that, so I deleted that arrow. The second arrow has come back down all the way down to the arc here. We got really close to it. We haven't really quite closed this second gap over here quite just yet, but we're close. Whether or not it's going to get close, I don't know. The reason why I don't know whether or not it's going to get close is because you have a katana here, or the fusion of the Tenkan and Kijun, and the daily conversion of the Tenkan is rising up here to serve as potential support. So this, even though this whole uptrend here was unhealthy for the last 2 weeks, it did leave some technical left over here, if you will, for price to not be able to go down that far, right? So I think we might be finding support here. I could be wrong. It could come back all the way down to the arc here, or you can even go down a little bit further, wick underneath the Ichimoku cloud here on the daily and close this third gap down here below. But right now we got really close to closing the second gap. I'm just not sure whether or not it's going to end up getting close here based on the price action and based on what I'm seeing here. But just this, none of this is unexpected. You know, you can talk about like DeepSeek or whatever. I think a lot of people already knew. They already thought that, hey, there's going to be a correction. Maybe let's just go ahead and bring out some like news here on the weekend and just crash the market down, grab liquidity, you know, what have you. Or maybe even like they already rotated out of a certain sector and got into a certain sector. So look at paying attention to what's, like, you know, showing relative strength or relative weakness today. But just overall, like right now, it's just basically retracing the mean here on the daily, right? On the weekly, there's really nothing to like get concerned about because it's still holding the conversion line or Tenkan here on the Ichimoku on the weekly. If you're also looking at Bollinger Support Band, it's still holding the Bollinger Support Band pretty decent, right? On the greater indexes, there's really not much to get worried about. On the S&P 500, on the QQQ, yeah, it's showing some relative weakness. It is breaking underneath the conversion, right? And it is get closer to the Bollinger Support Band here compared to S&P 500, but you still have plenty of support here down below. So honestly, this is a little bit of a gap down here. You are going to have relative weakness here in QQQ when you have relative weakness here in the semiconductor space, right? That's just to be expected. IWM showing some relative strength today, I think, just because over the last couple months or so, you can see how IWM has been kind of, you know, showing relative weakness here. So on a day like today, is holding pretty decent. And I gotta say, it's getting a little bit rejected here at the Tenkan here. But it's also just kind of back to the support band, right? There's really nothing that worrisome. Even for ARK Fund, ARKK, the Cathie Woods Fund, is showing relative strength here. If you're looking at all the indicators, it's showing a lot of strength. It's holding the Tenkan up just fine. And if you also look at the monthly here, you can see that it's just been holding the 0.382 here perfectly, and it looks like it wants to expand the Bollinger Band to the upside, to the downside. So there's still a lot of bullish stuff here happening with a lot of stocks that people are talking about, oh, valuation scare, things like that. It's still a bull market as far as I can tell, right? The US dollar has been, you know, getting rejected here at the macro phone, and it got rejected at the Bollinger Band here. 2-year yield actually has been looking pretty weak as far as I can tell, right? It's still extremely weak price action here. 10 years also weak. It's got like a pretty bearish candle over here for the month. So as far as I can tell, everything else is still looking pretty decent, right? Financials today actually has been holding pretty well. This whole month has been doing extremely well here with financials. So, and it's also backtesting the angle over here. It looks like it wants to grab it up to the arc here. So not much to get scared here. Now, the one elephant in the room is going to be semiconductors. Have this rejection here been, you know, is it possible here technically? Was there anything on the leaves that may have suggested some relative weakness? Yeah, it got rejected here at 2.272 here for months, right? and you have a hard time really push about this arc up here. We looked initially, I think this month looked like there were some signs that hey, maybe we were, but that turned out to be a little bit of a rug pull. That turned out to be a little bit of a bull trap, and we ended up just getting rejected. Right now we're at the bottom of the range, right? As far as I can tell, bottom of the range here, top of the range here, top of the arc, bottom of the arc. We're at the closer to the bottom of the range here. So when you're getting a bottom of the range here, I'm getting a little bit less bearish, although I think that it's showing relative weakness. It might end up continue to show some relative weakness when other sectors might end up doing pretty well. What is a sector that does well is XBI. XBI is holding 0.382, right, just like the ARK fund. I think XBI would have a good chance to challenge the Ichimoku Cloud here soon. And today is actually green, and there are a lot of biotech stocks actually looking pretty decent today. So, yeah, so that's maybe one potential sector to kind of look into. Talking about the semiconductor stocks individually, looking at NVIDIA, what did NVIDIA do? It's just like the SMH, which is the ETF for market weighted for semiconductor space. NVIDIA itself also basically is kind of breaking through this range and back testing this horizontal range over here. There's also a potential, and I talked about this, but there's still a potential for it to hit the arc up here. After it break up through the arc, back testing the arc, that's not the end of the world. Does it have to do that? No, it doesn't, because over here also stopped short of testing the arc, right? It doesn't always have to do that, but it had a clear rejection here at 2.272. So I think it just needed to come back down and cool down here. How far does it go? We don't know. It could eventually hit the 1 teens here at back test the arc here. I'm not ruling out that possibility, even though it looks like it's kind of holding today. But that's one that is unfortunate. Looking at AMD, it's showing some relative strength today. It's only down 6% when NVIDIA is down like 15%, only because it's just been vicious for the entire year of 2024, right? So if it's so vicious, it's going to show some relative strength because it's happening. All of this downtrend here is happening on declining volume. There's really not much volume on the way down. I don't think anybody really wants to sell AMD anymore. It's just there's no buying pressure. So a couple of really stocks that have been showing relative strength here and now has been really weak today was TSM. TSM got rejected here at the ARC. Also got rejected here at 1.618 here. It's trying to push through resistance. It's not pushing through. It's okay. It's just give it time, right? Also got rejected here at Bollinger Band here on the monthly. On ABGO, another semiconductor stock that has high market cap, it's Broadcom. A little bit extended way too far away from the monthly Bollinger Band here. Simply had to come back down, back to earth. Again, still a very, very strong looking chart, right? Still holding a Tenkan up here pretty decent. Now, if you ask me in terms of what I think NVIDIA is doing, I can show you one thing here. Where did NVIDIA find support at today? NVIDIA finds support right at the rising Tenkan. I'm going to actually make a post about this later, so it doesn't have to all the way come back down to the arc, right? All these things are almost premeditated. Prices are a little bit too far away from the blue line here, from the Tenkan, and it's just simply kind of back testing it. There's really nothing bearish about it, despite regardless of this like DeepSeek thing. I think a lot of these technicals are still carrying out how they're supposed to, right? So I just wanted to point that out here. Now, looking at some of the major stocks here, I'm going to talk about Palantir here real quick. Nothing has changed. I have a GAN ARC here where it's been following some pretty decent market symmetry here, 720 and 5 on the weekly. And you can see how each of these like angle and each of these arc here means something, right? We push through the arc, back test the arc here, trying to push through back this to this horizontal line here, getting rejected here so far. But yeah, it's a rejection. It still need to build up some energy to push through, and that's okay. On the monthly here, it is still holding way outside the upper Bollinger Band, and you know the upper Bollinger on the monthly generally still serve as a little bit of a magnet. So price going down like 5.8%, 6%, it's really not that big of a deal, right? On the greater scheme of things. So I'm not that scared. Tesla, same thing. The monthly candle is still green. A lot of people are losing their mind. It's still way outside the upper Bollinger Band, but it's still expanding to the upside and downside. It is still a very, very strong looking chart here on a higher time frame. I did talk about the possibility of it going down lower on my weekend stream, and I still find it to be a potential for it to go down lower, but does it have to? The answer is no. One stock that a lot of people want me to talk about here today is SoFi. What is SoFi doing here on the monthly? It's still touching the expanding upper Bollinger Band here. I think SoFi still has some ways to go here on the way up because of such a powerful bull trend that it still has. But if you look at the weekly chart here, and I'm going to pull off my GAN here, you can see that from the absolute bottom from SoFi on the way up here. You remember how I was talking how it got rejected here at the top of the arc, got close to 0.786, didn't really quite touch that, but I'm getting rejected at the top of the arc, right? So what does it do once you get rejected? Well, it has to come back down and back test things. Initially, I thought it was gonna maybe back test this 16.5 level, where this is a breakout, and then it's just coming back and back testing it, right? It also had a little bit of a gap here that needed to be closed, right? So I thought, okay, 16.5 might be a good region for it to back test and hold. It ended up going a lot further than that, but that's okay. Like, to me, it doesn't really bother me all that much. It still looked like it could potentially hold the weekly Tenkan here, which is not a bearish thing. It still looked like we have a bonus support band that's still way underneath of that. This is still very much of a bullish chart, regardless of what it is doing in the short term. This is still a very bullish chart, regardless of what it's trying to do in the short term. Even the 20-day moving average is holding so far on a lower time frame. So I'm not scared of SoFi. Great earnings today. Technically speaking, it was showing some weakness anyway, right? On the way up, it's on increasing volume, which is great, but it's been stalling up here. It's got a little bit of an island top here, right? So having the island reversal all the way down here as support is not a bearish thing here at all, as far as I can tell, right? A lot of stock traded hands today with already just halfway through. They already have this pretty decent volume here. So somebody's buying this. On the other end, if you end up selling, somebody's buying it on the other end, is what I'm trying to say. The rest of Fintech also still looks okay. I have a firm. As far as I can tell for a firm, it did break down underneath the 0.618 here. And it did start the week here a little bit gap down, which is unfortunate. But overall, nothing has really changed for me. I still think that it's still trying to find a higher low. I don't know how low the higher low is going to get, right? But there's really not much volume left here. So whatever shenanigans they're trying to play here, I really don't care. You can break underneath the bullish support band. You can break underneath the 0.618. I don't really care. It's just going to do its thing. I'm going to continue to hold on to this. And we'll see how it does over time. Robinhood, I didn't think it was just going to push to 0.786 just like that. Sure enough, so far it's getting rejected here, 0.786 here on the weekly, but that's okay. It probably had to come back down and back test some things here. We're just way too far away from a lot of the support, right? Like, I think the key support here is this horizontal zone here, where resistance. And now if the price goes back down to $43, that would not surprise me at all. Does it have to do that? No, it doesn't, because it's a very, very powerful bull trend. It's a very volatile stock. It can do whatever it wants to, but overall it's just been forming higher highs and higher lows. I don't really care about any of the shorter term volatility here. Looking at the miners and MSTR and Coinbase and all that, honestly, looking at all of this, looking at MSTR, looks like we're originally going to hold a 1.414 here, but right now price kind of broken underneath of that. Now is, unfortunately, it's resistance here again, But overall, it's still about the bonus support band. It's still stuck in range, and I can show you why I think that is the case, because Bitcoin is also stuck, right? So basically, it's just stuck here between the top of the arc here, 1.618, and the bottom of over here at this horizontal GAN line and the 1.414. Those are the range that you're talking about. Right now, it's still closer to the bottom of the range. If you look at Bitcoin, look at what Bitcoin is doing. I have 3 weekly GANs here. One is shown here, right? I think we're just basically backtesting bottom of the arc over here. Another GAN here I'm showing you here. We are backtesting the bottom of the arc here. Right now, price is a little bit underneath of that. Do I think it's going to come back down and test the GAN angle over here? There's still a possibility, which is going to be around like 96,000 or so. It doesn't have to, right? Because I still think that overall you're still finding support here on the Tenkan. On the Tenkan, just like on the weekly here, just like the S&P 500, just like the IWM, just like ARK Fund, it's still above the weekly Tenkan. So I am going to give Bitcoin a benefit of the doubt that I think this level ends up holding and may even close the week above the ARK over here, right? Same thing here. It got rejected up here at 104.8. Unfortunately, initially I was hoping that would push through. Decided not to. When it got rejected, what does it do? Come back down and try to backtest and find support down below. And so far, it looks like the first level that's finding support here is at the conversion line. So we'll see whether or not that holds or not, right? Going back to Coinbase, so that's what's happening, right? It's just like what Bitcoin is doing is stuck in range. MSTR is also stuck in range. That's what it is. Coinbase looking pretty decent. Yeah, the bullish engulfing candle 2 weeks ago. Right now, price on the second week is still having a hard time breaking below like half of this green candle. Still got plenty of support down below. Like that's why I'm saying like once you hold the 0.76, once you hold the arc over here, and also confluent with the Boron support band, I just don't see it going back down that far. And I still like where it is right now. So I like Coinbase. Now, CleanSpark, where's CleanSpark doing today? Let's turn off the volume here. Let's look at what CleanSpark is doing. Basically, without looking at the GAN, we're looking at the fib. I'm just going to pull up two things. One is the 100-week moving average, which is serving as support, by the way. You see how you're just zooming out here. Resistance, support, resistance, resistance, right? Resistance, support, 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 support. It's still up rising here. And we did end up tabbing. We did end up like giving a little bit of a tap here already. So it decided to backtest the 100-week moving average and tire all of y'all out again. And it's stuck in a range between the Boron support band where it got rejected at and the 100-week moving average where it's finding support at, right? It's just stuck in a range right now. A lot of the miners are going through technical repairment, whatever you call it. CleanSpark is no exception. I'm actually interested in buying CleanSpark here, to be honest with you. Because I've just found it to be stuck in a range here and it's at the bottom of the range and it looks like it could hold. I also like that the 20-week moving average, which is a part of our support band, is becoming really flat. So I still see a good chance for us to really break back above whenever Bitcoin's done stuck in a range. If Bitcoin's done stuck in a range, I think CleanSpark is going to get done stuck in a range here because it's doing its technical repairing and I like the way it looks actually. Mara is looking more decent here. You can see how it's just kind of like right smack in the middle here. It did end up having go down because it did end up getting rejected here at the Ichimoku cloud, right? So once it got rejected, it had to come back down and try to find some support here somewhere. So that's what I think Mara's doing. It's still kind of hanging out in space, though. It's not really any GAN support. It's just somewhere in the middle here between the 0.600 and 0.5 log fibs. It's not really doing a whole lot here. So even looking at the Bollinger Band here, it's just kind of stuck in the middle. Could it go down to the bottom of the range here, going back down to 16? There's always that possibility, but it's hard for me to say because it's just like somewhere stuck in the middle. It's not, and resistance is not in support. It's just right there, right? Bitfarm, extremely brutal stock, down like 11% today. Back testing the bottom of the range here at the arc. Could it go down further to the low arc here? Yeah, it can. What am I doing about this? I'm doing nothing. I still think that this fractal over here looks very similar to this fractal over here before it started just going pumping, right? It's one of the weaker ones. Last cycle, it was also a laggard. This cycle is definitely a major laggard, so I'm not going to buy. I'm just going to hold and just let it do whatever. I really don't care today in terms of what it's doing. Cypher, what did it do? Well, it got rejected here at the angle, at the horizontal here. Had to come back test some things, right? Ended up breaking underneath the GAN arc over here, like it did a few weeks before that. Like it did break underneath over here, but ended up closing above that. So we'll see whether or not this week ends up bringing good news to Cypher here, whether or not that ends up holding. You breaking down underneath a lot of these kind of support levels. You broke down underneath the cloud, broke down underneath the more support band. So it's just kind of hanging out in space right now. Unfortunate, right? But it's trying to find a higher low here compared to here. Over here, you do have a little bit of a wick here, but overall, I still think this is a higher high, higher low kind of look. I just don't know how low the higher low is going to be. And I'm still, I'm still pretty bullish overall for Cypher in a higher time frame. I'm not gonna like change my mind just because it's down like 20%, 25%. These minor stocks can, if you just zoom out here on log scale, like that's nothing compared. It's done nothing over the last 2 years. So today was brutal. Big chime out of Basel candle here so far, down 25%. But as far as I'm concerned, like it's doing nothing. So it's also touching the lower Bollinger Band here on the daily. So that's probably why price is not going down that much further. Iron, if you're looking at what Iron is doing, broke down underneath the Boron support band. It could come back test the and go down here below, which is maybe around like $9, 9.2, something like that. I'm not ruling out that as a possibility, and even if it does that, that's still a higher low compared to that. That's still a higher high compared to that. So it's still kind of just somewhere, hang out in space. If I change the fib level, is it going to give me any level that is holding? Not really. It's just kind of somewhere hang out in space, Yeah, so it could go down further. I think it's a possible, and also keep in mind that I think it's the whole HPC narrative, DeepSeek narrative dump, if you will, which means that it's probably like already premeditated, I'm just gonna keep holding onto iron here, and I'm not gonna add, I'm not gonna subtract. I'm still in profit with iron, so I don't really care. Wolf is also very brutal. It did end up breaking down underneath the 0.5 fib, and it looks like it could end up gravitating down here to the top of the Ichimoku line around 4.3. If it ends up doing that, I think I'm gonna end up trying to buy more wolf here. It broke down underneath the bull support band. It's just trying to do. It's going through repair. It did end up getting rejected at 0.618, so we knew it was probably coming back down, back test this horizontal zone over here. We did end up having 0.5 here as resistance, so not entirely surprising when it comes back and back tests 0.5, which is what it finally ended up doing, and we just end up overshooting here, by a little bit here. Unfortunate, but hey, such is live. You're also way underneath the low Bollinger here on the daily, so these kinds of moves are generally a little bit unsustainable. So we'll see how it goes as the week continue to commence. Right, BTBT also has a very, very sad candle today on the daily, and on the weekly, in terms of what it's trying to do. Well, initially we're hoping that it breaks above the arc here for good, decides not to. It's not ready yet, so it comes back down. Broke underneath the Ichimoku cloud here, but this is a weekly chart, so we'll see what the Ichimoku holds, just like how it did over here for the last few weeks. And broke down underneath the Boa support band, is also trying to do some technical repair here, trying to figure out his technicals, trying to figure out what it wants to do, but it's a little bit range bound still. It's not ready. And the one stock that I still find to be relatively bullish is Riot, because Riot is still kind of hovering around the Ichimoku here on the weekly, but it's also just back testing our support band here, right? You have 2 weeks consecutively close inside the arc here for the first time since 2021. I think that means something. You end up breaking down underneath here for the week based on some kind of macro scare. So I don't know whether or not this is really that scary, especially when it's holding support right here so far. I'm going to talk about cores. Cores has been extremely brutal. Initially, I thought that the 2.618 here was going to hold. It could still hold, right? Because we kind of broke through the 2.618 here. We haven't really back tested it until today. We finally back tested the zone over here. We broke down underneath the arc here. We broke down underneath the support band. So it's going through some technical repair. I don't think it's just going to be a V-shaped recovery. I think it's going to be at least a few weeks sideways, if not longer, in terms of what cores is going to do. It's being destroyed here today. But so far there's also a wick, it's like somebody's buying cores over here, but I do think that it's showing enough technical damage here that I think it probably would need some time to kind of sort out its technicals here. So I've never really been interested in chasing cores, and I certainly will not chase cores here today. But that's kind of what I'm seeing here with cores today here. Anyway, I'm gonna talk about one last stock here to kind of show you what I think about the overall market sentiment, to tell you how stupid all of this is. The one thing that is kind of showing you how stupid all of this thing is GME, because GME had the dump a couple weeks ago. Everything is dumping at their own accord. Some things are dumping earlier than others, and somebody decided to just dump GME a couple weeks ago, right? As far as I'm concerned, is finding pretty decent support, is still holding for a support band, is still holding the kitchen here on the Ichimoku here on the weekly, and it did end up breaking down underneath the 2 week Tenkin here, but that's okay. It's still holding a pretty decent support zone over here. It does have a little bit of a bearish engulfing candle here, and we only have maybe a few more days to kind of repair this before the month close. But overall, it's still a pretty nice bull trend. 20-month moving average is still flipping resistance here to support. It looks like Bollinger Band still wants to continue to expand, right? But we just simply haven't had the expansion of the Bollinger Band yet to allow price to go up higher over time. I still find GME to be one of the better stocks here in the market. And when I have money, I'm still going to allocate to that. You know what else has been showing relative strength lately? Well, the Hang Seng Index, right? Look at how nicely the Hang Seng Index is holding right now. It's about to 0.382, and the Bollinger Band is expanding. Looks like Hang Seng wants to go up higher. I have the target of the Hang Seng for this cycle to go up to 28,000, which is not necessarily a previous all-time high, but that's kind of what I'm looking to see here. So there are a lot of, I guess this could potentially be narrative-based too. You know, yeah, the DeepSeek thing, China relative strength, but they've been accumulating over here for like 2 years straight. And they're finally able to get pumping, and when they get pumping, they need some narratives to go along with it. So like the whole like DeepSeek narrative, I think, is a pretty good one. I gotta say that the market makers are very smart in terms of doing what they're doing. I don't have anything else to add to that. So anyway, thank you so much for listening in. I just want to share with you some thoughts on the market, going through a lot of major stocks, a lot of the major things here, including Bitcoin, indexes. Hope you enjoy this video. Hope you don't like freak out, because if you freak out, it's pointless. Nobody cares if you freak out. The market like you to freak out. The market wants you to be tired. The market wants you to be thrown off sides. On a day like today, quantum stocks holding pretty well. On a day like that today, all like QBTS just testing the upper Bollinger Band here. QBT just testing upper Bollinger Band here on the monthly. RGTI is not even touching upper Bollinger Band here, you know, showing some relative strength here. IONQ not even touching upper Bollinger Band here. All of these quantum computer stocks actually are looking like they're doing pretty decent. So it's just something to think about. A lot of times, a lot of the dump already had happened. They're just trying to hit one thing at a time, and they already did the hit today. So if you're worried about having further hits after they already did the hit today, I don't know what to tell you. Can things go down a lot further? Yeah, they can, but at some point you're gonna have to recognize that this is a bull market, and you're gonna have to do what you have to do, whatever that is. Sell out your stock, buy stock. I don't care, right? I just it's still, it doesn't make sense to me in terms of what they're trying to do based on narratives, with the exception that they're trying to hit things that haven't been hit yet, and they're trying to rotate money from one place to another, and I guess they're just looking for narratives to justify for it. This is net. This is Cloudflare. I have a position in Cloudflare. I love Cloudflare in terms of the chart. It's very, very strong today. It's showing some relative strength today. It's only up like 2.3% on a day where things are supposed to be scary. So just something to think about. Take care, guys.